Hello everyone, welcome back to Advanced Weekly Update. My name is Brandon and we have Archie with us today.
Hello, 大家好。
And we're delighted to have Archie. We're delighted to have all of you tuning in today. We're talking about everyone's favorite subject, making mistakes.
是吗？我以为要聊职场。犯错也是职场的必然。
Yeah, we don't really like talking about the mistakes that we make, or maybe we try to ignore them. And we're especially talking about in the context of the workplace, and we really want to have a positive work culture. Archie, what is something that you think makes a work culture positive today? What helps you to have a positive work culture?
Sorry, I have to answer it in Chinese.
可是他的英文非常好，没有问题。
好，当然我用中文回答。这个我觉得职场文化非常重要，可是怎么有一个好的职场文化，其实跟人有很大的关系。你跟人有打招呼，你跟人有好的正面的句子在回应，你的 email 写得很正面的时候，都会让整个职场文化是走向越来越好，越来越好 ，getting better.
So my Chinese isn't great, but I think maybe we're talking about the connection between people,
Yes.
right? And so that is really true. That's so important. Like maybe your work is kind of difficult, but if you have good relationships with the people there, that makes it much easier, right? And so that helps for a positive work culture. Well, let's get to our polls to give you time to take it today. So that's going to pop up on the screen, and it says, how difficult is it to admit to others that you have made a mistake? All right. Is it very difficult? Is it just kind of difficult or pretty difficult? Is it kind of easy? I want to know if you say kind of easy, we'd like to learn from you, because I think for most of us, it's quite difficult we sometimes say own our mistakes, meaning to admit that we've done something wrong. It's difficult, right? 但是 own something. To own something, it means that you admit that you did something, right? So if you own your mistake, you say, yes, I made a mistake. And that's your way of sort of owning it. That's sort of maybe more of a colloquial expression.
就认领回来，把这个错是我的问题 ，sorry， 我要承认这样子。是吗？我有没有讲错？
But it's difficult to do that, especially in the workplace. We were talking about earlier with the team here, and Rose sitting over here, you can't see her. She's here every week working hard, as well as David and Ruben, and Archie, of course. But we were talking about how it sometimes seems like it's a sign of weakness to say that you did something wrong. It seems that way, Archie, but I think in reality, it's not a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of strength.
再跟我说一次，妈妈。
对。So, 没有问题. I think like if you admit that you've done something wrong, that is actually showing that you have inner strength, because it's hard to do, 对不对？
对，就是你要承认这个错是你犯的，然后你要解决它，因为真的是你造成的错，这种的压力一层接一层。
But we sometimes feel that it is a sign of weakness. So let's pop up or put up our question of the week. It says, why do you think it is difficult to admit mistakes sometimes? Why do you think it's so difficult? Like, is it something to do with things outside of you, or like inside of you, or a combination? Like, what I mean is, like, are you afraid of what people may think if you admit your mistake? Maybe you do feel it's a sign of weakness, or is it for some other reason? What do you think, Archie? Why do you think it's sometimes difficult to admit our mistakes?
我会觉得，一个是我的面子，我觉得很丢脸，然后另外一个是我的同事会不会从此以后瞧不起我，我会觉得很害怕，就是我不敢承认。可是你越不承认，你越不解决这个问题，这个问题就越严重，它会一直延续，而且你没有改进的机会，所以你会一直重复发生。You are mad at again and again.
Yeah.
So just face it.
Yes, right. And I think sometimes we feel that we don't want to say sorry. Maybe we feel that the other person needs to say sorry, or maybe they've done something in the past and they didn't say sorry, so I'm not going to say sorry. And then that turns into a negative cycle. And I think we have to be humble, right? We talk about humility in the workplace. And I think it's important to do that. And I think, Archie, I don't know about you, but the older I get, I feel like this becomes even more difficult.
对，年纪越大越放不下这个面子。对，但是其实真的不要这样想。
Because you're supposed to make fewer mistakes when you get older, right? But you still make mistakes, right? And so I think we need to own that. And even as parents, right, with our kids, we need to own our mistakes, right? And tell them, hey, sometimes we may even need to apologize to our own kids, and that can be difficult. What I found in life, Archie, is the more often you do this, not that you go around every day apologizing all the time, but the more often you do this, the easier it is.
Good point. I like your idea. 对，没错.
Yeah, so give it a try. Maybe you need to ask for forgiveness or something like that. It's very much worth it. So let's look at our poll. It says, how difficult is it to admit to others that you have made a mistake? Okay, the choices, very difficult, pretty difficult, and kind of easy. Right now, kind of difficult is 33%, but it's pretty evenly split. Very difficult and pretty difficult. Each have 25%, and 17% saying kind of easy. If you say kind of easy, we'd love for you to just respond right now and tell us a little bit more of why it is easy, because we can all learn from each other, right?
对，没错没错。留言告诉我们，你为什么会这样想？你为什么会有这个反应？让我们多多去经历一下。当然，你可以用英文留言。Brendan 看得懂。
英文，对，that's English. Practice English, right? All right. So, and also don't forget our question: why do you think it's difficult to admit mistakes sometimes? If you have a moment to let us know about that, please type that out. And we hear from Kyle here. Can you scroll back up to Kyle there? Kyle says, sometimes I think admitting my mistakes may make me lose face, or sometimes worried about whether other people can forgive me. And that's a really good point, Kyle. I think you were talking about losing face, and we don't want to lose face. But I think in the long run, it's worth it, even though it's difficult to do that. And I like what you said, that you talked about, Kyle, you wonder whether or not someone can forgive you. And I would just say, like, it's not up to you, like, you know, whether or not they can forgive you. It's on them to forgive you, right? Yeah. And so that's something to think about. Mary says, for me, I feel ashamed to admit my faults, especially at my workplace or on my job. And that is true. Maybe we're afraid that, oh, if I admit I did something wrong, then I'm going to get demoted, which means like you have a lower position or something like that. Right? And I think we go around, Archie, with a lot of fear, and that keeps us from growing in life.
对，其实真的没有这么严重。我觉得这个是一个练习的过程。你在很小的错，你就敢说啊 ，sorry。当你习惯了以后，你就是我们刚才讲的习惯了。那你未来犯更大的错，然后因为你不是故意的嘛，你就可以跟他说，我真心的觉得我错，我要认错，我要解决这件事。那这个只是第一步，因为第二步一定是 how to fix it， 这才是真正解决问题的下一步。
And I think, Archie, think about, put yourself in maybe your manager's position or your boss's position. And I know this isn't true all the time. It could maybe be true if you admit your mistake. There could be something negative. But I also feel that, you know, if you're a manager and someone comes to you and admits a mistake in a humble manner, maybe they would actually have more respect for you.
对，没错。
So that's another way to think of it. And also, it's kind of up to us sometimes to change our work culture, right? Maybe it's one way, but we can do one small thing to start to change the culture. We also hear from Grace, and she says, admit the mistake so you will have the chance to fix the problem in time. That's true. Sometimes we let things go on because we didn't speak up.
对，
right?
你不说，这问题更大，以后你更不敢讲，因为丢的脸更大，还不赶快解决。
And Luna says, if I do something wrong and others help me, I'll buy him or her a drink. All right, good. By the way, I think ordering food delivery with colleagues makes good atmosphere. That's true. You know, anytime you're able to eat together, that helps helps you to usually have a positive atmosphere, right? Whether it's at work or friends. Mary says, I want to be respected, but if people know my mistakes, maybe they won't respect me anymore. The truth that I can relate to that, Mary. The truth is people usually know our mistakes anyway. We're all kind of walking around pretending they're not there, but most people can see them anyway. So sometimes it's better to just admit it. And sometimes when you admit your mistake, you can bond with other people in a way that you can't when you are putting up like sort of a false self.
对，其实我觉得 Brendan 老师刚才讲一个很好的 的观点啊，就是说你愿意说你愿意去改变的时候，其实人家不见得会不原谅你。当然这最后决定在别人，可是你可以做的决定就是赶快承认你的错，修改你的错误。至于别人要不要原谅你是他的问题，他的修养。可是你在职场里面 you make a culture，你让这个文化形成以后，未来就越来越容易做成这件事，越来越容易相信对方。那这个 culture 就是要 build up， 对不对？每一天每一件事情慢慢 build up。
Build up the culture. All right. And sometimes, before we go out the door each day, Archie, we put on the face that we want other people to see. And sometimes we need to take that, most of the time, we need to take that mask off and let people see who we really are, right? And sometimes that includes admitting our mistakes when we're wrong, right? And not always focusing on the mistakes of others, right? What's going on with us?
对，像今天就有一个人出错，他没有出现。
Yes. There is a scripture, and I think we talked about this before. Sometimes we see a speck in someone else's eye, but we have a log, right, in our own eye, right? And we're ignoring that. So that's our last word of wisdom as we go today. Thank you, Archie, for joining us today. Thank all of you for joining us. Next week, guess what, is a holiday, right?
对，放假哦。
Okay, so we will not be with you next Monday. We will take a break with all of you, and we'll be back the following week, which I believe is March 6th, that Monday, right here at 1 o'clock. Don't forget to subscribe and become a member if you haven't yet to get extra content. All right. Thank you, guys. See you in 2 weeks.
Bye-bye. Bye.